Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
And we're talking today about a documentary that's called You Don't Know Me. Now, this is about Showgirls, which was released in 1995. The film was the first widely released NC-17 film, and it teamed up director Paul Verhoeven and screenwriter Joe Esterhaus 3 years after their phenomenal success of Basic Instinct. But unlike that movie, Showgirls was a huge commercial and critical flop. Now, in a new documentary titled You Don't Know Me, and Nomi is spelled N-O-M-I, after the protagonist's name, Nomi Malone, who was played by Elizabeth Berkley. This notorious film gets reevaluated by a range of commentators who appreciate it for all different kinds of reasons. The reason I wanted to bring this one into your attention, Alex, was because you, of course, have quite a bit of overlap with Paul Verhoeven in terms of the fact that you both have worked with the same producer, John Davison.
John Davison, a very nice producer.
Yeah. And you've also both, Phil Tippett worked with Paul Verhoeven on RoboCop and Starship Troopers, which Starship Troopers is a great, wonderful, underappreciated, prescient, ahead of its time movie about fascism in America. And the world. No, there is no America in Starship Troopers, is there? It's a world. It's a world government. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
United against the giant insects.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm curious about your 2 cents on this documentary about Showgirls and your thoughts on Showgirls in general.
Well, I can't believe it was 25 years ago. That's amazing. Yeah. 25 years since Showgirls came out. Oh my God. No, I liked Showgirls. I thought it was good. I was one of the people who enjoyed it. I mean, it was for me like Mommy Dearest or Monsignor, those 2 films by Frank Perry. Mm-hmm. It was very tongue-in-cheek and, had a massive budget and all these showgirls in it. I thought it was, like The Lonely Lady. Do you remember a film called The Lonely Lady?
I've never seen it, no.
It starred Pia Zadora, and it was, again, very tongue-in-cheek kind of expose about the seamy side of Hollywood, but very entertaining and very camp and very melodramatic. And the only problem that I had with Showgirls was the rape scene, which was really brutal and also then just a revenge pretext to figure out a way to end the movie. And thinking about that, and that was really my only complaint about Showgirls. Otherwise, I thought it was a pretty good film.
Yeah.
But thinking about it and The Lonely Lady, I thought, oh my God, because The Lonely Lady also, at one point, the plot hinges on a particularly nasty rape scene. And I'm thinking, well, what is it about these melodramas, these tell-all melodramas about show business that have to, is it a unique thing to that form? And then, of course, the penny dropped, because then I thought, oh shit, because my favorite Italian Western, For a Few Dollars More, also revolves around a horrible rape scene for a revenge motif. And so that's interesting, because I just start thinking about all the entertainments, the harmless entertainments that I've enjoyed over the years, which are really kind of, deeply suspect in that way.
Yeah, no, it is something that is ingrained in a lot of these movies that were, made by men, produced by men, and written by men, of course. So, yeah, what's going on? Is it, as you say, just a cheap way to advance and get to the third act or something? It's out there. But did the documentary itself elicit any emotions from you? Did you watch it?
Well, I thought it was interesting that when they talk about the preoccupations of Paul Verhoeven, and they're able to like just go into his whole cinematography. I mean his whole filmography. I mean the films he made before, the films he made afterwards, to sort of create an impression of Verhoeven's, interests and aspects of his cinema. I thought that was very interesting. I'm guessing that it's all fair use as well, because it would cost a fortune to license all of that footage. And it might be hard to even be able to license some of it. So it's kind of cool that there's a whole fair use. I'm assuming that they haven't paid for the rights. They're just asserting their right to make
what I was surprised is that it didn't have, it didn't bring in the main players in a contemporary context to look back on it. So it was relying on almost exclusively archive footage all the way through.
Yeah, and they say that, well, recently, Verhoeven, I don't know if Esterhaus is still alive or not, but I mean, but they have been, have been talking it up and reconsidering it and all the rest of that. So it would have been interesting to have them, or indeed, some of the actors to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's a fan thing, isn't it? It's a film. It's a documentary by people, because also it's got this sort of cursed aspect to it that like Mommy Dearest or the Rocky Horror Show, people apparently attend screenings where they shout out lines from the film.
Well, yeah, no. So that was one of the things that the documentary made very clear, was that this, although it was reviled when it came out and although it bombed, it became a cult movie. But it also it found audiences that were staunch supporters, and who, it's been brought back as a musical. Apparently, it became very popular with the gay culture, as well as some women who actually see it very much as a empowering story of a survivor.
I mean, she's a great character. She really is a great character. And Gina Gershon's character is a great character, too. I mean, they're both really good, and the acting is really good. No, I'm not a big fan of Kyle MacLachlan, but he's not bad in it, Yeah. So I thought it was interesting that the film has got so many different... It's got academic supporters, but also this kind of mad fan base.
Back in the day, I remember there was this rather... coffee books, of course, are large and big and ostentatious, and there was... They gave Showgirls the coffee table treatment. I think it was called Showgirls Portrait of a Film. And I just right now looked up a Google review from a reviewer, an enthusiastic reviewer, who said, "Stunning pictures, of course, but for me, it's the accompanying essays from director Paul Verhoeven that are its true strength. For it is from these that we learn of his directorial intentions, the quasi-religious overtones, the character interplay that he insists are in the film, all very serious. It's all about Eve in a G-string." And I thought that was a great quote. So, all about Eve in a G-string.
A melodrama. It's a melodrama. So yeah, I mean, it's a campy melodrama. I'm not very into melodrama, so I don't really know like Douglas Sirk and all that. But I am familiar with the absurdist tendencies of Mommy Dearest and of Monsignor. Have you seen Monsignor?
I have not, but I really like Douglas Sirk, and I've shown some of his movies in my backyard. I can't remember if you were around when I did some of his. I'm not normally a melodrama person either, but there's something about for me, when it goes over the top, it is very entertaining. I agree, and so I suppose I should learn about Sirk. So I'm going to use this as there's no segue here, but when I emailed you to say that we might talk about this particular title, you then added a very interesting footnote to your email, and you said that you wanted to talk about Ted Cruz's legislative proposal to make Hollywood studios choose between Chinese censorship or Pentagon approvals. So
isn't that interesting?
I want to know, you clearly have read some articles about that, and I have not. So what have you got on that?
Variety, if you look in Variety online, there's a piece in Variety from last week about this proposal of Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz isn't very popular. I mean, I know he's not, even in the Republican Party. The Republicans don't like him very much, and obviously Democrats hate him. But it does seem like, even Ted Cruz has come up with this really good idea, which he's trying to get passed into legislation, which is that if, and we're talking Hollywood studios because they're the only producers who can afford this kind of thing. If a Hollywood studio gets free stuff from the Pentagon, and in return they submit their script to the Pentagon for Pentagon censorship, they cannot also submit the script to the Chinese government for Chinese censorship so as to be able to distribute the film or shoot in China.
Interesting.
Because what the studios have been doing is been playing both ends against each other. They've been playing the Pentagon end and taking notes from the Pentagon and making all these changes to get access to the Pentagon or CIA or FBI or whatever. I mean, they make an enormous number of changes to the script to satisfy the military-industrial complex of the US. But then, in order to get a release in China or make a film in China, they have to promise to submit the script to the military-industrial complex of China as well and make changes based on that. And the other interesting thing which Variety said, which I didn't know, was that the contracts with China insist that the Hollywood studios only have one version of the film. So they can't make one version to satisfy the Pentagon and one version to satisfy the government of China. So isn't that interesting that finally, I know the Democrats will fight it tooth and nail, but I mean, if Cruz's legislation could be passed, the studios would be forced to choose between Chinese money and free tanks.
And free tanks. Well, this reminds me a lot of the story that we heard from Phil Tippett, which brings us back to Paul Verhoeven, of course. But when Phil Tippett, last time you and I both visited him, and he was talking about the Red Dawn reboot and how they had to change the bad guys from the Chinese to the North Koreans. And so they had to go back and CGI all the insignias. And then, you know, and also, I mean, it was fascinating to me because he was, at that time, Phil Tippett was working on these amusement parks and, you know, that was like...
Oh, still is. I mean, that's still ticking over in spite of everything. I mean, the amusement park business is still... Because they, in theory, they're out of lockdown in China. And so they're already gearing up for cities, more new cities built around amusement parks.
That to me, that was so fascinating because those amusement parks had virtual reality rides that whisked people through their own famous local landscapes, but they had to do CGI to get rid of all the pollution. And so people are paying money to look at their own landscapes, but in a VR setting and artificially clearing the... anyway, it's just, wow, there's some Kafkaesque stuff going on there for sure. It will be very interesting to see what happens with this legislation that you just mentioned. So, yeah.
I mean, I guess it could pass in the Senate because the Senate is controlled by the Republicans, but the Democrats always like, you know, stick up for the needs of Hollywood and copyright law and the recording industry and stuff. So I doubt that unless the House of Representatives fell to the Republicans, I doubt that will come to pass. But it's interesting the questions that it raises. Cruz's proposed legislation. It is interesting.
I'm just trying to make sense of it as an exhibitor. And I just found out today, by the way, Alex, that I got all my reservations for Munzinger in the fall pulled out for me by central scheduling because I've been academically bumped because they're increasing the academic day from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And there's a demand for big spaces. Munzinger, where I normally show movies, has 400 seats. And they need that space. And now they're going to be spreading out classes widely throughout the day. And so I just had all my reservations from like Monday through Sunday, all of them got canceled this morning. I mean, it's just...
So what are you going to do? Can you get into the VAC?
No, I mean...
no, because that's
right now,
too, right?
I listen... You married a very smart woman, and she's been telling me repeatedly I need to think about drive-ins. And by God, I think the only option I have right now is to go on campus and see where I can maybe put up some screens and have drive-in pop-in cinemas or something. That's
a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. You could get that great big inflatable screen that the Alamo Drafthouse have and put that up in the parking lot.
Dave Reapy, who he's got his own network for that kind of stuff, and so he might.
Excellent.
I might have to call upon him, but yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll be having to think outside the box for sure.
So they're going to be doing shifts then at CU. They're going to be having classes in the morning and then another shift in the afternoon, and which will run into the night.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Poor students, poor faculty, poor staff.
Oh, well, you left in the nick of time, buddy. You got out with you're laughing, man. You're laughing. You got you got out in the nick of time for sure.
No, I'm sitting here in my little hut, and I'm just wishing I was attending one of your drive-ins.
I just wish I had you in the backyard.
Snow falling, with the snow falling in between me and the screen.
Oh, like we could watch El Grande Silencio with actual snow falling. That would be amazing.
Exactly, or McCabe and Mrs. Miller,
yes.
or It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, I don't know about putting that one. I think we had a good double feature. That might be going a little bit long and alienating some of the spaghetti western fans. But yeah.
Oh yeah. I see. It's a different market, isn't it? Yeah, you're right.
All right.
But hey, anyway, so people can support the IFS by watching this 25th anniversary documentary about Showgirls, right?
Thank you for reminding me. And yes, for those listening, if you go to internationalfilmseries.com, we are doing what we're calling virtual screenings of theatrical on-demand titles, and the distributors are kind enough to actually split half of the proceeds with us. So if you go there and you click on You Don't Know Me, which is the documentary we were just discussing, that'll help us out. But hey, if that's not your bag, you can check out all the other titles we have, and there's quite a few others, and that helps both us, the International Film Series, and the distributors of the movie. So please do check out internationalfilmseries.com. And thank you, Alex, for reminding me. You are,
and thank you for making it all possible.
Professional, yeah. All right. Well, I'll switch things up quite a bit for next week if you're still game. And
yeah, I'll be around.
Awesome. Always nice to talk to you, and we'll talk again soon.
Very nice talking to you too, and please thank Jason as always for his incredible hard work.
I will. I will. Say hi to Todd for me and give the pups a scratch.
And love to all.
All right. Take care, sir.
All right.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations.